not out there saying you're going to go to hell unless you become Jewish. It's like,
right.
That is totally antithetical to Judaism.
It's so funny, though. You know, the different experiences we're coming from. I think because I think in some ways I think you're both more. I have a lot of affection toward the tradition, but in some ways I think you guys are more.
Well, we both come from Christianity.
Right, but
we left it.
Right, and
we didn't like it.
Right, and it makes you more. I think it
critical of Christianity,
and you see positive things in Judaism where
right.
I'm more like, that's
Korean Baptists. Those Korean Baptists really had it down.
Right, yeah. No,
we all know the influence of Korean Baptists on intellectual thought in the United States today. They're just like they're totally.
Well, if you go like their work,
Korean Baptists have it down.
I don't think they have it down, but I think Jesus.
You thought they were more intellectual than your conservative show.
Well,
that's what you said.
I do, and I look. I've got some of my baggage involved. There's a lot of hubris in the community.
We think we're better. That's the honest way. We do. We think we're better.
Okay.
We could be wrong, but that is the authentic. Yes, it does. But Jews want to deny that they think they're better, but we do.
Oh yeah, well they want to deny it publicly.
We deny it publicly, but privately we take it for granted.
That's
we're
pathetic,
better.
Though. I'm sorry to go and give your tikkun olam shit, and we're all the same publicly, and then in private to gratify yourself, like you're stroking yourself off, talking about how telling you about Jewish Nobel Prize winners and stuff. Like it's pathetic to me.
I think it's a mindset that was necessary, but maybe is not so necessary now. It's necessary, I think, to think we're to say if I'm a Jew, to say I'm better, I'm smarter, we're this, we're that, because that helps you survive, in the face of persecution or, forced, being expelled from certain places. I mean, that's the kind of thinking that keeps you going. It just might not be so necessary now, but it's maybe just a remnant of...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I say, you talk to LDS people, you talk to Druze, there's always a distinction between their public presentation and their internal self-understanding as a community. And that's just a product of having to protect yourself as a community. But the problem is that we're not in that environment anymore. Or at least I don't feel that we are, and a lot of us...
Would you agree that privately, even though they would never say it, most Jews would never say it, most Jews, do believe that Jews are better?
Well, if they don't, then they've certainly got a lot of cognitive dissonance going on, because there's intense... the whole idea of a Yiddish cop. There's an intense... there's a great deal of self-regard in the community about the intellectual formidability of the community. And then politically, we'll advance very, very egalitarian ideas, but yeah, there's a lot of arrogance about...
But at the same time, I mean, it's part of the cultural tradition, though, that goes way, way far back with Jews, to be learned, to be scholars. It's something that's not inherent to a lot of other cultures. So I mean, it's maybe it's taught. It's not innate.
All right. Well, let's say the Jesuits then, okay? Or let's say
right. But that's a learned behavior, and the Jews have just been doing it for a longer period of time.
I went back to Loma Linda University 3 weeks ago. Seventh-day Adventist University, where my dad was speaking that weekend, and I was talking to a childhood friend about things that I did not like about growing up Seventh-day Adventist, and one of them was I felt like we were on the margins. Like, you never heard about political candidates, how are they going to attract the Seventh-day Adventist vote? Never heard about political candidates, how are they going to attract the Seventh-day Adventist money? Didn't hear about great Seventh-day Adventist generals, great Seventh-day Adventist politicians, great Seventh-day Adventist movie directors, great Seventh-day Adventist novelists, great Seventh-day Adventist writers. Culturally, intellectually, financially, Seventh-day Adventists were peripheral. And one of the things I love about being Jewish and living here in a Jewish community is we are right at the center of what's going on, whether it's Israel in the world, whether it's politics, whether it's intellectual life, whether it's artistic achievement. This is so accomplished. This is so where it's happening.
That's true.
Yeah. It's an interesting place to be, and I can see how it would be much more appealing to be here than to be on that margin.
Yeah, but all right. Well, there's no reason for me to say anything in response to that.
29:26. So God's anger flared against that land to bring upon it the entire curse that is written in this book. And Hashem removed them from upon their soil with anger, with wrath, and with great fury, and he cast them to another land. The Torah really thinks that there is something special about the land of Israel. That we're here in the diaspora, and this is definitely inferior living from a Torah perspective. I mean, I think it's pretty clear.
From a Torah perspective at this moment in time.
From the perspective of the 5 books attributed to Moses. Like this, the land is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
spiritual Israel wherever you go.
Right.
Right.
It's not. This is not Israel here
Right.
in Los Angeles.
Right.
It's like it's a real specific religion. You can
Yeah.
spiritualize it, but you're not being authentic.
Or
if you deny the primary physical meaning of
Yeah, I
these
mean, I think
words.
you can say, oh yes,
You
this
can
is
find
very
spiritual
Israel-centric, but I'm not into that part.
Right,
But if you
right.
just say-
But the text is
Right.
very Israel-centric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So what are we doing here in the diaspora? Well, I mean, I think the text is divine. You don't, and I won't speak for you.
I think it is, just not necessarily in the way you do, maybe. I believe it is.
I think it's divine only in the sense that actually, forget it. I also might as well not say anything on that. I mean, it's divine in the sense that any human effort to really figure it all out and figure out how to do it.
Like Plato,
Yeah, in the way that Plato is divine. Plato probably
the
did.
Ninth Symphony, Beethoven.
Well, I'm not that into music, but Plato anyway. But I think I don't know about Plato. Aristotle did a better job maybe than this, but the.
So what are you doing in the diaspora on account? I mean, I'm just too lazy. I'm not ready to make that giant shift to Israel and a whole new way of life. But
I don't know.
how
A
do
lot
you
of
think
people
about
are
it?
questioning whether there really is such thing as a diaspora anymore. I mean, haven't Jews just moved all over the place? Aren't they at home where they are? I mean, I know that Israel is still, it's got symbolic value, metaphorical value.
Does it have real value? You
For
really
some
think
it
there's
does.
no
For
such
the
thing
for the younger generation, I don't know that it does. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but it does seem to be the case that Jews are very happy where they are. They want to go. I want to go. to
Does the
Israel.
younger generation have the right, based on what we've been reading, to say this is no longer so special? I mean, Moses seems to be giving us an eternal covenant here. Like, my reading of the text is that this generation doesn't have the right. This
Does not
generation
have
could
the
think it's cool to, like, sodomize other men,
Right.
but I don't think it's cool with what the Torah is saying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Torah is just not. Yeah. I mean, the Torah is very
Like,
explicit
this
about
is
that.
like, we've got an eternal covenant here, and part of it is the physical.
The Torah doesn't want them to
land
do
of
that.
Israel.
It's very adamant about it.
Right,
Don't
yeah.
do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if this is an eternal covenant,
Mhm.
going back to, or I'm sorry, going ahead to the Shema stuff, why isn't he holding up his end of the covenant? I mean, if this is an eternal covenant,
Right.
and it's laid out right
Why
here,
isn't
verse
God
6,
living
30,
up to it?
16.
Why isn't
It-
God living up to it? Huh?
Well, there are people who do not follow God and they prosper. There are people who follow God and they do not. And it says right here, if you walk in his ways, you will have this. But that's not how it works.
Well, what if he's
So-
speaking to the collective? He seems to be speaking to the collective. And as the collective has not lived up to God's will, then God hasn't lived up to it
I
either.
didn't realize it's been 2 hours. I have to head.
You have to run.
Yeah, I really regret that because this is pretty awesome.
Do you want to meet up with, or you have no
Yeah, I
time?
have to go see her. No, I can't.
Shall we all go see her?
Let me see what she's up to.
Okay, why don't you make a call, and
Yeah.
Monica and I will carry on
Yeah,
the sacred
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So was there anything that you wanted to jump on in either of these pashas that you thought was interesting?
No, I mean, I've been jumping on it.
I had some thoughts then. Like chapter 30, verse 12, Torah's not in heaven. Like, I get discouraged all the time with my Yiddishkeit, with my Torah observance. And I get discouraged easily in general in life. And as soon as I think something's out of my reach, I feel like, okay, I'm off the hook. But hang on, let me get Joey. I don't want him wandering around. Hey, Joey? Joey? Joey?